Chara, you did a very good job. Yes, you did. This is Chara. This is Chara's roadmap to success. I'm wearing some outdoor gear because it's still spring in Nebraska and it's COVID-19 time. But we just finished our session and the family, we just went inside to warm up. This is her roadmap to success. Chara is a great dog. She is a Colorado mountain dog, for those of you who are unfamiliar with her breed. And she's taken her puppy classes. She's great on a lot of regards, but when she's outside, she doesn't always listen to her family. And so we went over some exercises and things that are going to help. The video above is the leadership exercise. And I'm going to start off by talking about what we want to do for that in terms of how to practice that. So I'd like to have, especially the kids, but it'd be nice if everybody practiced that. And what we'd like to do is at first, as we saw in the video, as soon as she lays down, we walk over and kneel down and tap and let her have permission to get it. Once she's pretty much laying down right away, and not really challenging anymore, then we're going to start adding time. So I go over there and then I kneel down and I wait maybe 2 seconds before I tap. And 4, 8, 10, get up to the point where I can go crouch down and kneel down to it with 15, 20 seconds. She's not trying to grab it until I tap. Remember, every time that she licks up, say the B word, booty, or come up with whatever word you want to use. Eventually, you get to the point where when she lays down, you walk over to it, and you don't have to kneel down. Maybe just squat down, and then wait 5 seconds, then tap. Eventually, you just stand over there, and you just kind of go over there like that, and just kind of tap the floor without crouching down. And eventually, you could just say it while you just say booty or whatever the word is. If she doesn't get it, then get down on the floor or kind of tap with your hand to indicate yes, you can come over and get it. The next stage is eventually I want you to do it where you put, if the camera is the TV, and I drop the treat here in the middle of the room, and I'm going to back up and the couch or the chair is here. I want to be able to get to the point where I don't ever sit or lay down on the couch, or I sit on the couch, not lay down, but I don't ever sit until the dog is at least sitting first. So when the dog sits, maybe I step backwards and I'm just standing there waiting with my the calves against the couch, waiting for her to lay down. And I don't tell her to lay down. And as soon as she lays down, then I sit down. When you sit, remember, you lose some authority. So I want your authority to carry through your sit. So you sit, but sit on the edge. If she gets up, then you get up. You mirror her. She takes a step towards it, you take a step towards it as well. And the idea, and she can be anywhere she wants in the room, she just can't be within the 6 foot boundary of it. But eventually when it gets to the point where you can sit down and she stays laying down, and then you wait 5 seconds and tap on the floor and say booty, and she runs up and gets it. And this would be mostly for the kids. But eventually when it gets to the point where you can do this and you're sitting down and you're watching TV, and it's 15 minutes of doing this, and she's not trying to get the treat. She can get up and move around the room, she just can't come within the 6 foot boundary. And so this way she gets practiced at listening, at self-restraint, listening to the human who's instructing her. There's just a lot of benefits. Come here, Chara. Chara, come. Now she is very motivated by the right treats. Sit, come, sit, sit. And so the guardian mentioned to me that she wasn't very treat motivated. I think it's the treat the treats that you use. These are the Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver, which I call doggy crack, and she's very into it. So I'd maybe use these specifically for the leadership exercise and for the doggy stairmaster. She only does the stairs a couple times, then she kind of gives up. Well, this is a lot more powerful. So that if we restrict their usage and only use them for a couple things, that'll make it more powerful. Now, because she took our puppy classes, I kind of skipped through a lot of things I go through in our sessions, and we're able to move a little further ahead than we normally do, but I'm going to kind of go through those. First question I asked is, how much exercise does she get? Well, actually, before I get to that, let's talk about this. So see, I reached to pet her. Now, she didn't move away, that was fine, but right before I started talking about this, I reached and she kind of turned her head, she backed to the side. So dogs, if they don't want to be touched, will often back up or lower their head or turn their head to the side. So if you or anybody's trying to pet her and reaches towards her and she backs her head away, we want to listen to her. She's kind of mouthed and nipped to us and people a couple times to disagree, but in those situations where the way it was described to me, it was when the people weren't listening to her. Now, I'm not saying what she was doing at the time was appropriate, digging a hole or whatever, but when she didn't listen, we were trying to physically manipulate her or get her to come with us. And if she's defiant or doesn't think that it's appropriate for that person to say, she's going to push back, and eventually the pushback can come with their mouth. And that's, I think, what happened there. So I want to, next time she's chewing a hole in the grass, instead of going and grabbing her, go get some really good treats. Come in and show her that you have a treat and throw a treat over here. So she takes a couple steps away from the hole and gets that treat. Then you show her you have another one and throw it a couple more feet. And then you show her you have another one. And then she follows and walks with you. So you're using the carrot as opposed to the stick. Sit. Sit. She wants the treat, but I want to hold on to the treats. I don't want to necessarily give her the treat for every individual thing. You do that at the beginning when you're training a dog, but eventually you want to start elongating it so the dog has to maybe do 2 or 3 things before it actually gets the treat. Okay, and her focus is very good as long as you have treats. So we'll talk about some things we can do to help with that. Now, I talked to the Guardians about exercising. She does not, right now she sleeps in a kennel. The Guardians do not have a yard. I mean, they have a huge yard, but it's unfenced. And because we're near a busy street and we have a dog next door that is a rescue dog that is not necessarily the friendliest of dogs, she just can't be, and also she'll run away. So the Guardians have to have her tethered, and I have her on a tether right now, a 20-foot lead, but that can create some frustration. So I'm hoping that the Guardians can fence off at least part of their lawn so she has a small area that she can be in there off leash, because I think that there's some frustration from that. So getting back to exercise, we'd like to get her, have her get more exercise. So she goes for kind of chases around, being chased in the house every once in a while, which is great. The doggy stairmaster. Show her you have a treat, throw it to the bottom of the stairs, and she licks it up, come up with a funny word, call it like Mexico or Saigon or Australia, somewhere that means go south. And then show her you have another treat. She runs to the top of the stairs, give her another one, call it like Denver or Canada. So we have a command word eventually that means to go down the stairs, a command word that means to go up the stairs. And the first time I do it with an empty stomach, I keep doing these up and down the stairs until she's like, you're crazy, I'm not doing that anymore, it's not worth it. Maybe that was after 44 up downs, and each down up should be 1. So we want to keep on counting this until we want to find out what our maximum number is. Now remember, it's a repetitive injury exercise, so it could be an injury could happen if she has mobility issues or other stuff like that. We want to talk to her vet and make sure her vet is okay with it. The other thing we want to do is make sure she's doing it with an empty stomach. Dogs have what's called a descended stomach. It can flip over if it's full of food when they're exercising. So that's Doggy Stairmaster multiple times a day. So if we're going to take her for a walk, Doggy Stairmaster before the walk can produce a much better walk. If we're going to have guests come over, or she's going to be doing some activity she normally pushes back on, getting some exercise beforehand can be really beneficial. I'd also like the Guardians to do a great job of letting her sniff on walks, which is wonderful because dogs burn more energy by sniffing than they do from walking. But if they can get a nice harness with doggy backpack, which is basically a saddlebag for dogs, the Guardians can start putting water or bags of sand or something in there for her to carry on the walk. Guardians eventually want to camp with her, and that gives her the ability to practice doing it. She's doing a job, so that helps her focus, and the extra weight makes the walk a little bit more efficient. So it's another little tip that you can use. We could also do a Doggy Stairmaster, which is basically where when she's outside or on a walk, we maybe hide 5 treats, and just maybe around the leg of a couch, next to the TV stand, and so on and so forth. And so when she comes in, you tell her, hunt! And she goes, holy crow, that means that there's treats around. She starts sniffing. Well, remember, sniffing burns more energy. Every time she looks it up, maybe say search, hunt, find it. So now that becomes a game, a fun game for her to do. I have some clients where the kids play hide and seek with the dogs. They hide and the dog's got to go find them. She gets a treat every time she finds one of the kids. That's also using the nose, so it's very physically draining. So you can Google scent games. There's a lot of different scent games out there that you can use that'll be beneficial. Let me see, what else? Snuffle mat. Get a snuffle mat. They're about $30-35 on Amazon. Get the gray one that you'll see. It'll be the first one on Amazon if you get it there, because that one's more washable and you can wash it. Basically, you feed the dog out of using the snuffle mat, and that makes feeding almost akin to like getting a walk. Now, I would like the 2 youngest boys to actually take turns hand feeding her. I would like to, put her food in the bowl, and then the bowl is up, and the kid comes over, tells her to sit. When she sits, they grab a small handful of food, tell her to sit. She has to literally eat it out of their hand. Now, if she doesn't come over to where the food area is, after calling her 2 or 3 times, pick up the bowl, dump it empty, put the empty bowl back on the ground. Right now, the Guardians pick the whole bowl up to keep it away. But I like the dog to see the bowl and see the bowl is empty. That helps kind of spike their interest in it. And so basically, I'd like the two young boys to be feeding her by hand like this. And if she doesn't want to eat, then we dump the food and put it away. We're not saying you can't eat, which is not ethical. What we're saying is you have to eat out of my hand, or you have to wait for permission for me to eat, give you permission to eat first. And so now the boys are feeding, they should eat something in 5 or more bites, or have a snack. A real meal is great, but if it doesn't work out scheduling-wise, just 5 or more bites. So the kids eat 5 bites, and then they give her permission to eat, or they're feeding her out of the first by hand. But eventually it'd be nice to feed her out of the snuffle mug. So that makes, that's a little bit more exercise. It slows down the feeding process. She's not a fast eater, but it really, having the human in control of the food is really beneficial in terms of the hierarchy. And the 2 youngest boys are the boys that she challenges the most, and they're the ones that are probably most inconsistent with her. So if they can get in a habit of feeding her breakfast and dinner, that really elevates them as having more status or rank. So if she doesn't eat breakfast, I wouldn't even try to dinner. I would just, okay, you don't get it until breakfast the next day. That'll help her be more motivated for breakfast the next day. Let me see, what else? We went over rules, but the Guardians have already done a good job of incorporating rules. I'd like you to just not say the command word multiple times, like for sitting at the door. Go to the door, say sit 1 time. If the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds, make sure you sit down. Don't stand. Standing looks like you're waiting on the dog. Sit down in the immediate area and wait 1 minute. Then get up and go to the door. Tell her to sit again. If she doesn't sit this time, I'll walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. Keep double length of time. And so I'd like you guys to get in a habit of only saying the command word 1 time. I saw multiple times during the session where the commands were repeated. The more you say it, the less you mean it. So what I'd like you to do instead is to give her the command once. If she doesn't do it, then show her I got other things going on, and not pet her. And that's the other thing, is also be careful of that, because come up with maybe a watchword that means you're petting with the dog, and you shouldn't be petting the dog. That kind of is paycheck, the way I normally use it. But at one point, one of the Guardians asked the dog to sit. Chara didn't sit, and one of the kids was near her butt and petted her anyway. So she got paid even though she didn't do the job. So remember, asking her anything you're asking her to do, you're asking her to do a small job, and the payment is either the treat or a little bit of attention. And if she doesn't do the job, she should not get paid. That's really going to be important in her case, because she's basically picking and choosing who and when she's listening. Well, we're going to do that on the other side of the fence with her rewards, and make that reward more powerful and make her more inclined to want to listen to those. Okay, so some of the watchwords. I'd like you to, I'm going to say repeat or rerun if you're saying the command word more than once. We need a word that means you're petting the dog at a time you shouldn't be petting the dog, so they shouldn't be doing that. We're going to say paycheck. Paycheck means I suspect you're petting without a purpose. And so that's kind of the same thing I just talked about, but paycheck is, if I come in and see somebody's petting her and she's standing, they might assume that I forgot to pet with purpose. I say paycheck to me, I stop petting her, tell her to sit. If she sits, I pet her under the chin and say the word sit. Not good sit, just sit. And then pet her as much or as little as you want. If she doesn't sit, lean back and don't pet her. Remember, playing hard to get works great for dating, it works great for dogs too. So show her that I wanted to pet you, I wanted to give you my attention, but if you can't be bothered to sit for me, I can't be bothered to pet you. I have other things, I'm on to the next thing. So if she nudges you especially, don't pet her. Tell her to sit, give her counter order, tell her to sit. She's already sitting here, tell her to sit over here, or tell her to lay down. Don't practice shake. If she does, pet her under her chin, say sit, and pet her as much or as little as you want. If you get done petting her, she comes and nudges you again, that's probably her way of saying, I'm bored, I need some exercise. And then go do the doggy stairmaster, take her for a walk. If she doesn't sit, lean back and watch more TV, check your phone, just do something else. Show her that, hey, if you can't be bothered to listen for me, I can't be bothered to do whatever else it is. And so after a while, your pets become more valuable, and she's more motivated and inclined to listen to you. All right, passive training is rewarding her when she does the things that you want on her own. So every time she comes to you, you should pet her and say come. Every time she sits, pet her and say sit. Laying down, come up with a fun word to eat, chimichanga, fajitas, sushi, whatever it is you want to say. Every time she takes her first bite of food, you say sushi. So sushi means I get to eat. Make sure whoever's feeding her eats something first. There's the other dog. And then if she doesn't eat, like I said, pick it up, dump it, but make sure you put that empty bowl back down so she sees that bowl every time she walks by. She recognizes and sees it's empty. That way when it is full later on, it's more valuable. Remember, any dogs learn through repetition, consistency, and good timing. You have 3 seconds to correct or reward the dog for them to have the ability to make the connection, but it has to be repeated over and over enough times consistently. Inconsistency causes a lot of frustration and confusion with dogs. So make sure that you are being consistent about these things, like especially the enforcement of rules. A lot of people break rules as a way to reward the dog, and that really just makes the dog want to continue breaking that rule. So if you want to reward her, rub her belly. Yeah, that's your buddy, huh? Go play tug of war, take her for a walk, do something that she likes doing. Don't break a rule to reward her. Now remember, anything she is doing when you pet her is what you're specifically rewarding. So if she is fearful and you're petting her when she's fearful or anxious because of a sound, you're gonna make her more fearful or anxious. Instead, you can lay your hand on her. They do associate touch with affection. I know you can't see her, she's down in the shot here. But if I lay my hand on the dog, that is associated with touch and love and affection. As soon as I start petting, I'll make it worse. So remember, not pet your dog when it's nervous or anxious. If she's nervous or anxious, try to move her away from whatever it is. Now remember, anything your dog does in your presence is considered to have your seal of approval unless you specifically disagree. So not saying no is akin to saying yes. So make sure you are disagreeing, and you're disagreeing right away. Remember, 3 seconds. And remember, good attention, bad attention is the same thing. So that's why passive training is so important, celebrating the things the dog does that you like. So every time she comes to you, pet her and say, come. Every time she sits, pet her and say, sit. Otherwise, she'll go back to doing these other things, hunting or protecting the area or whatever it is. She thinks those are her jobs. Well, the more that we pet her for sitting or coming and laying down, the more she thinks those are her jobs, the more she will offer those behaviors. And that gets her easier. It makes it easier for her to listen to you when those things come up. Now, I also like the guardians to go to kind of a merit system for the kids. Now, what I usually do, I recommend this for younger kids, but it works for older kids as well. Each kid has like a little vessel on the mantle or the table or somewhere, and it has their name on it. So if basically one of the young kids tells her to sit and pets her on her shin, says sit, and it's, hey mom, I told her, I petted with a purpose. Mom takes an M&M or some piece of candy, puts it in his jar. And then at the end of the day, the kids go grab their jar and they dump it on their plate, after dinner, and that's their dessert, or they can have those as a snack the next day. And you can say that she's got, you've got to get to a certain threshold every day. Come. That's celebrate. That's passive training. And so that way the kids understand there's a benchmark. And if you don't, then maybe you have to go clean up the poop outside or something along those lines at the end of the week. So you create a little bit of competition for the kids to want to do the things that you want. Sit. 1, 2, 3, didn't comply. She wants one of the treats, but she's used to people saying it multiple times for her. So now I still have the treat and she's still not getting it. And as soon as she sits, I'm going to pet her, because I'm going to let her know that's what I like, but I'm not going to get, this is a really high value item, and this is something for doing it when I want you to do it, not when she wants to do it. And I think she's used to doing it when she wants to do it. So I think that merit system will really help. One of the kids is a little bit older, so the candy's probably not going to be as much as important to him as it is for the others. But again, you can do it. Hey, if you want to go to football camp or whatever it is, you got to get to the certain number of thresholds and just keep a chart and count them up. That motivation and competition can really be beneficial. And now you got the kids kind of doing something and motivated to want to do it. The dog is more motivated to want to listen to them. Everybody's benefiting from it. Now, we also went over, the circling method. Now, this is a method that you guys might want to consider taking the course. We teach a loose leash whacking class. It's $200 for you to come to town. But if you're interested in taking the course, let us know. I can send you the link to the course so you can just watch the videos. But basically, it's just doing circles. And remember, especially the youngest, when she wants to go this way, he just was turning and going the other direction. And if you go from opposite ends, that is when the dog will pull absolutely the most. So what I want you to do is if she stops going this way and you want to go, or let me say you want to go this way and she stops and she's going this way, well, if I keep on pulling back, I'm going to activate that opposition reflex. So if she wants to go this way and I'm over here, I'm going to pull her to the side. And we get her to pull her to the side, especially don't let her stop, because when she stops, she's able to really sink in. She's got more leverage than a couple of the kids. She weighs more than them. But if you get her going to the side, you can use her own momentum. It's kind of a little bit like judo. And so she's moving with you as opposed to just trying to move diametrically opposed to you. So you might want to practice having the kids do that in the yard while you're there to supervise. Just have them walk towards things and then turn her and do a loop, and then try to lead back towards it. So you're not saying that you can't have it, but you're just saying if you pull me to anything, as soon as you start put tension on the leash, we immediately do a circle. And it's not an about face, it's gradually moving, so you're getting her moving to the side and not pulling back on her. And then practicing here. Now, once you get the dog used to doing circles, it's easier and easier for them to do it, and eventually they'll start doing the circles on their own. So I'd really like to have you guys practice that with the two youngest, because I think that'll really make a big difference. Instead of pulling against her, they get her used used to turning. And so that's a nice technique that you can use for a lot of other issues. All right, I'm trying to think what else. I think that's pretty much it, but I want you to make sure that you reach out to me if you have any questions. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. But really be on top of each other with those watchwords. The list of command words. Come up with a list of the official command words. I heard the guardians saying her name and come here or come or over here, and that's a lot of verbiage for her to remember. So one of the things I'd like you to do is make a list of the official command words, tape it to the refrigerator, and put a magnet or whatever. And just basically every time that somebody says a different version of the word, they're like, come here. They're like, vocabulary. The person's like, thank you, come. And so that makes it easier for her if we're only using one vocabulary word for each command. A lot of times we assign a whole bunch of different vocabulary words, and it confuses the dog and it makes it a little frustrating. Last thing is get yourself like a 20-foot lead like the orange lead that she's on now. Come. So you'll see it. This is about a 20 or 30-foot lead. Sit. Come. And so what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to start practicing having her being loose on this 20-foot lead. Now it is dangerous for a dog to drag a leash around unsupervised, and so make sure you have one of your runners, one of the young kids who can kind of track her down. So if she does run off, it's easier to catch her because she's got this 20-foot lead. But I would like her to have some time out being not just completely having somebody hold the leash on her the whole time. That creates some frustration. And I think, she's kenneled at night. She doesn't have a yard to run in. She can go to the dog park every once in a while, but I think there's some frustration here. And I think that's part of the reason why she doesn't listen always when she's on the leash. She's like, man, this is a gyp. I don't get to run. I don't get to have a good time. All the things I'm supposed to be able to do as a dog. Sit. Sit. So we'd like to have her stop. I'd like to have you start practicing having her free at night. Put her in a kennel, just don't close the door. But the first night, make sure she's only has access to the room that she's in, and make sure you police the room ahead of time so there aren't a lot of shoes and things like that she can get into. And that way you can help her practice being free at night, which is the time they're most comfortable and relaxed, and then not getting in trouble. If after a week she doesn't shoot up anything, well then maybe I put one shoe. It's an old dirty shoe. I don't care if she chews it up. I'm just doing that as a test to see, can she be in the room with that at night and not chew it up? She does that, maybe I throw another test in there, another thing that I know she likes to get. And if after a couple days she's not getting into those things, then I give her access to another room. And so it could be a week, it could be a couple days, whatever. Every dog's gonna be unique. But the idea is to help her practice being alone. I think that's gonna help her because she's just so much restriction. The last thing I'm gonna cover is the leave it exercise. Now she understands the leave it exercise, but I like the guardians to make a list of all of the things that she likes to get into. She likes to get into old clothing and chew on them and bedding and some of those things. So what I'd like the guardians to do, to trash in the laundry room, make a list of all those things. Then grab those things out and spend some time when you're as a family watching TV, or just you or whoever it is, you're watching TV, the TV's over there, I'm here, put the sock or the piece of whatever it is on the floor in between you and, you gonna come all the way, you gonna come into the shot, there we go, between you and the TV, and then watch TV. And she starts getting, she looks at it, she gets up and starts moving towards you, say leave it, she leaves it. What we want her to do is practice being around that thing that she normally gets into, and she has access to it, but she doesn't do it because you ask her to leave it. When she leaves it, you go and give her a treat and say leave it. And then eventually we start elongating it. So the trash can's in between in the room, and she's got to be around the trash can without getting into it. And the more that she does this, the more she's practicing essentially being around these things and not getting into them, which is practice at leaving it alone. And as weird as it sounds, we have to teach dogs how to do these things, how to practice not getting in the laundry, how to practice not getting into the trash can. And for dogs, it's hard to understand because for dogs, it's like, look, you have all this great stuff that none of you, the humans, seem to like, and I would love to have. It's in this little box here at the end of the bar. Why can't I get into this? Well, it's the trash. We don't want you to get in the trash. Dogs, it's hard for them to understand that concept. So the leave it is kind of a trade. It's a contract. If you leave that alone, I'm going to give you something else. And then we basically, once she's doing that and leaving it alone, then we're going to start elongating that until she's used to being in the room and laying down next to the dirty socks or the trash can or whatever it is, and she's not getting into it because she's been trained not to do it and she's practiced not doing it. So remember, anytime your dog fails a behavior, I want you to ask yourself, how can I recreate the situation that she failed and do it in a way where I can kind of make it the easiest version of the activity first. And then I'm basically help her practice the behavior that I want her to do by breaking that action into individual steps. Step one, over and over and over again until the dog's automatically doing step one. Only then do I go to step two. And then step 3, 4, 5, however many steps are the easiest version of the situation possible. And then I make the situation a little bit more challenging, And we want to work our way back up to that real world situation. And now the dog knows how to behave because we've taught him how to behave. We've helped him, we've communicated it. We've helped him practice sit. And now the dog understands what we want, is motivated to do what we want because there's something in it for them. And after enough practice, that just becomes the new normal for the dog. Okay, Chara, come here. Come here. Chara, come on, get it. I want to get you in the shot. Come here. This is Chara. Isn't she a good looking puppy? Taylor's one of Taylor's puppies from our puppy classes. All right, well, this is Chara. I was about to say Taylor, but this is Chara, and this is Chara's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.